Hey guys, Attorney Walter Knott, Disability Resolution PA here. All right, let's go ahead and get right into this video so you know what's going on. I just want you to understand a few basics as we go into this. First and foremost, for some reason the blue microphone is not working. I don't know why that is, but we have audio through the digital webcam. Now, with that said, we're going to be covering specifically in here breaking November 15th, 2021. That's today, 11:55 a.m. written this morning. Total of views that actually watched this from this particular website, Forbes.com. You know I love their stuff. 174,947 views. We're going to be going into, and I'm going to make this very simple and get right into it, what was more important, the retired and the disabled, even though getting increases in benefits to those two categories of individuals who are Americans, who most likely worked very hard in this country. Unfortunately, these are the categories of things that represent things that were considered more important by Congress going forward. All right, let's go through them. Everything in the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill Biden is about to sign. He just signed it today. New roads, electric school buses, and more. Here we go. Now, we're going to be doing an exercise. Howdy, guys. Howdy, Faith Moore. Howdy, David Dameron. Nanny Anderson. Lord D. Howdy, howdy. Legals, yeah, exactly. All right, top line. President Joe Biden on Monday will sign, and he did, into law one of the largest infrastructure packages in U.S. history after months of bipartisan negotiations, intense political infighting, shoring up $1.2 trillion in funds, including $550 billion in new investments for the nation's bridges, airports, waterways, public transit, and more. Here's what you need to know about where the massive new spending will go. Okay, roads and bridges. Here we go. Here we go. Headlining the 2,702-page bill spending. All right, just guys, 2,702 pages of spending. Just let that sink in. When you wrote a college paper, it was like 10 pages, 15 pages. You get to higher level doctorate work, you're at 50 pages, 100 pages. 2,702 pages of the bill's spending. That no bill should be more than 100 pages. The entire SSI Restoration Act, just so you guys know, front and back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a little bit of 8. That's the entire SSI Restoration Act. It took them 2,702 pages of spending in this particular ridiculous trillion-dollar bill. By the way, not to upset anybody, but they're going to have to change the wording, obviously, on this January 1st, 2022 Supplemental Security Income Restoration Bill, because bottom line is, in about a month, it's going to become void. So they'll have to reintroduce it. If nobody's watching that, then don't worry about it. Roughly $110 billion of new funds would go toward improving the nation's roads and bridges and investments in other major transportation programs. They deem that more important than the retired and the disabled. Next one, public transit. The package also includes the largest ever federal investment in public transit, allotting $39 billion to modernize systems, improve access for the elderly and people with disabilities, and repair more than 24,000 buses, 5,000 rail cars, and thousands of miles of train tracks. That's cool, right? It's improvement for the elderly and the disabled, right? Heaven forbid we give the disabled and the elderly enough to buy a damn car, right? But hey, we just assume they all live in the city. We just assume that they all have, like, the need to go ahead and travel in the city via public transit. Heaven forbid we go ahead and make sure they have enough for a car. Okay. Amtrak. The legislation marks the largest investment in passenger rail since the creation of Amtrak 50 years ago. With $66 billion earmarked for high-speed rail, safety improvements, Amtrak grants a modernization of the railroad connecting Washington, D.C. to Boston. That is completely worthless. We have fusion coming out. We have ion-based electric cars. We don't need Amtrak. We don't. We need cars that will use roads with electric motors, and then we will transition to gravity-based vehicles, which won't even use cars. We won't even have to use highways anymore. We'll be above the trees. But no, for right now, we need Amtrak. Heaven forbid, once again, we give the disabled and retired enough to own a car. Again, broadband internet. Tacking on to billions authorized by last year's American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure bill includes $65 billion to bolster the country's broadband infrastructure and help ensure that every American has access to high-speed internet, with 1 in 4 households expected to be eligible for a $30 per month subsidy to pay for internet access. Or just a thought, you could, put money into competing factors to create more Starlink-based systems, and then just give everybody in America free internet. Or we could do that. Or we could do this. We could give $30 to people who are low income on their $60 internet bill. Or we could do that. Or we could do that. Or we could do that. It's just a total waste, or we could do that. Why not? Electric grid. They could have worked out a deal. He's all set up through NASA. It would have been so easy to work out a deal to give everybody in America a setup. It would have been so easy. Electric grid. Though many clean energy measures were cut from the bill to satisfy spending, wary lawmakers, that they're pissed off that they didn't get more money to spend of the American people that will have to spend the next 15 years paying it off. A $65 billion investment will help upgrade the nation's electricity grid, with thousands of miles of new transmission lines and funds for environmentally friendly smart grid technology. It's like we're building a new America from the ashes of a poor America. It doesn't make sense. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, guys. It's like, if you wanted to make it better, what you could do is you could go ahead and, let's just call it like it is. Figure out how to get more stable electricity throughout America, as opposed to going mass investment. I've seen this before. Mass investment into essentially green new technology that will not be able to, on a massive level, give all of these poor people that don't have proper electricity their shot to have normal life. It's sad. You know what I mean? They could have said, hey, we're getting rid of rules with the electric system to go ahead and allow people to have trailers on plots of land and not have all these restrictions. And that's part of our new electric grid system, is that we're going to fund these companies to send out to all these, potential, plots of land like they did back in the day, and give them electricity with their RV or their trailer or whatever on it, so that they have the opportunity as a person to, enjoy electricity and still have some human investment in themselves. You know how many people that are disabled or not disabled yet, like they haven't been approved yet, have to live in an RV without power because of the county code, because of the state statute, because of the town ordinance? Do you know how many people get screwed over by that because it doesn't look nice? Doesn't look nice. It doesn't look nice, right, guys? Right? Because we're worried about, does it look nice? Or do we care about the poor? Does it look nice? Or do we care about the Americans? Nope, we're going to create basically new transmission lines and funds for environmentally friendly smart grid technology. What I thought was weird too is that I thought people were already paying for all that stuff by buying the electricity at a higher cost. I don't know if you guys know this, but when you put solar panels up, and you can sell your electricity back to the power company. You sell it back to them at the wholesale cost. You don't get to charge them what they charge you. They give you very little for the electricity back. What an amazing America. Amazing. All right, here we go. Next thing. Electric cars and buses and ferries. In addition to the $7.5 billion for the nation's first network of electrical vehicle chargers along highway corridors, lawmakers have shored up $5 billion for zero-emission buses, including thousands of electric school buses, and $2.5 billion for ferries. Yeah, okay, fine. We do need more ferries because we do need more people going around and basically living in new places and using up land that's in spots that most people can't get to. Fine. You want to do that? Cool. Lawmakers have shorted $5 billion for zero emission buses. Fine. If the buses are that bothersome, fine. You know what I mean? Fine, fine. We're all moving to electric vehicles. Cool. 7.5 billion is for electric vehicle chargers along the highway corridors. Cool. Awesome. Or you could have just made all the electric car makers pay for them. Could have done that. Could have done that. Right? Give them some sort of subsidy. Give them some sort of whatever. Give them, something off their taxes. You could have had them pay for it, but instead. And the problem is this: it's all going to get sucked up somehow to some company that doesn't actually do the job that it's meant to do in full. That's what will happen. That's not always happens. Clean drinking water. Following high-profile water supply crisis plaguing cities like Flint, Michigan, the legislation includes a provision for $55 billion to replace all the nation's lead pipes and service lines, representing the largest investment in clean drinking water ever. Yeah, but how's that going to fix the lead pipes that are in homes? I mean, is this just to replace the nation's lead pipes that the government's continuously still using? And if they are, wow. All right, so here's the thing, guys. Way back in the day, I studied specifically what happens when you get heavy metal, arsenic, lead, stuff like that, into your body. And they do a parts per billion analysis. And when you think of parts per billion, just think of like one water drop in an Olympic-sized pool. So if you had 50 of those water drops, your IQ would drop if you were to drink that water over a couple of years. If you had 150 parts per billion, your IQ would drop significantly over 5 to 10 years of drinking that water. This is a very good thing. I am shocked that we haven't found a way to just line these things, which I think we have, but whatever, they're going to replace the pipes. That's an important thing. That does help our disabled and retired. I'm for it. Great rivers and lakes. Among the bill's $48 billion for water infrastructure improvements, about $1 billion is slated to go toward the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, a sweeping cleanup of measure targeting toxic hotspots or areas of heavy industrial pollution around the Great Lakes region. That was more important than the so just to keep in mind, $48 billion. $48 billion is around what SSI costs right now. It's a little bit less, but it's around what SSI, like the entire SSI for the year, costs. All right, airports. More than $25 billion have been allocated to help modernize America's airports. Funds the Airport Council International says will help tackle more than $150 billion worth of project backlogs. All right, guys, and don't hate me for this, guys, but if it were me, I would not be essentially rebuilding the entire infrastructure of the United States. I'd be using that to make money that I knew I could make and making improvements based upon what was reasonable, as opposed to creating a $1.2 trillion bill that now puts us in $1.2 trillion worth of debt. Because when you're low in the hole like we are post-COVID right now, you don't usually take on massive debt. You take on small debt per project. I'll do another video where we go through all the cute little things that are being thrown in for the politicians, where they get some library named after them. Road safety. The deal invests $11 billion in transportation safety programs, including a new program to help states and localities reduce crashes and fatalities in their communities, particularly among cyclists and pedestrians. It's like they're trying to do the things that help people get transported. And that's cool, and I like that, and that's great. But have any of you guys noticed that we're moving away from us as human beings have to move from point A to point B to go to work? Like this whole office thing, going to offices, meeting people in offices, that's going away. That's going away. Medically, we'll still have it, but financial, advice, lawyers, all those things, you're never going to be going to their offices in the future. It's just not going to exist. There's going to be 0 point to meet a person in person where you can just Zoom with them and see them right there. So I see this as like, okay, they're going to the grocery store. Okay, they're going to the bowling alley. I think people still bowl. I came from a small town, so The bottom line is I came from like a mini town. But the bottom line is this. You know when you guys hear like country songs? I came from a smaller town than those country songs talk about. All right, Biden will sign the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act Monday afternoon, nearly 2 weeks after it passed the House on a vote of 228 to 206, with 13 Republicans joining 215 Democrats in support of the bill. The Senate first approved the bill in August. Tangent. Though President Joe Biden first released his infrastructure proposal in March, months of bipartisan negotiations yielded about $800 billion in cost cuts. Lawmakers ultimately agreed to cut the infrastructure bill's investments by as much as 50% across the board, with overall transportation funding settling at about $312 billion from $621 billion originally proposed, and water and power funds falling from $210 billion to about $125 billion. Despite the bipartisan support, the sweeping infrastructure measure faced tough opposition from both sides of the aisle. For months, Senate Democrats, eager to bolster clean energy funding, hashed it out with Republicans queasy over heightened spending, until finally agreeing on a slimmed-down proposal in June. And here's the thing, guys. I don't know if you know this, but green energy investment right now is like green energy investment back in the Obama era. It's a lot of money getting thrown at a problem that they still can't fix. Can any of you guys tell me when Trump was in, or Biden was in, or Obama was in, or the Bushes were in, or the Clintons were in? Can any of you guys tell me whether or not we fixed poverty yet, fixed homelessness yet, fixed food shortage problems, fixed disability problems, fixed retirement problems? Can anybody tell me, has anybody actually fixed these? I will continue. All right. So, however, House progressives then threatened to withhold support for the bill if lawmakers didn't also move forward with Biden's separate Build Back Better budget proposal, which would authorize spending for Democratic priorities that didn't make it into the infrastructure package. Yeah, the Build Back Better budget proposal is insanity. I don't know if you guys have read it. It's absolutely insanity. I haven't read the whole thing. It's massive and ridiculous. It's insanity. And where you think it's going to help people, it's actually going to hurt. Just so you guys know, $1.2 trillion spent on the infrastructure is $1.2 trillion that is not going to be spent on the retired, the disabled at all. The entire Social Security system for the retired and disabled and all the other programs in the SSA costs about $1 trillion a year. That means they could have thrown $1 trillion into the pot to push out all of our needs for the retired, all of our needs for the disabled to 2100 or some other year based on the need and use. Instead, they'll be increasing, and I'm going to be doing a video on that, Medicare up by 14.5% for Part B. This is like the worst. This is like terrible. I'm upset. I really thought it was going to go differently than this. And I know some of you are going to be like, me too. And some of you guys are going to be like, well, how did you not know this? $256 billion. That's how much the Congressional Budget Office estimates the infrastructure bill could add to the nation's budget deficit over the next 10 years. Okay. So, meaning nearly half of the package's proposed new spending could end up tacked onto the nation's $29 trillion debt load. It's actually over 30 at this point. But let me read that again. $256 billion. That's how much Congressional Budget Office estimates the infrastructure bill could add to the nation's budget deficit over the next 10 years. When you get a loan, which is what this is a loan on the future, and essentially, people having to pay back this money. So it'll be like my generation paying this off. It will be essentially, my kids' generation, if I ever have any. I see positive Cheyenne. Howdy, Cheyenne. So it'll be basically future generations paying this off. And what they're saying is the future generations are going to face $256 billion worth of money, little $1 bills lined up 256 times a billion. And the problem is this, that basically that will be the loan that keeps coming back. And we'll just keep trying to pay it over 10 years onto that $30 trillion debt load. The House earlier this month cleared the way for a vote on the Build Back. Here we go, more crap legislation. Better budget proposal as soon as this week. But even if the bill makes it past the lower chamber, Manchin and Sinema have yet to explicitly support the $1.8 trillion proposal. Earlier this month, Manchin said Democrats must allow time for complete transparency and analysis on the bill before moving it forward, joining other moderates in demanding the Congressional Budget Office release its financial analysis of the bill before a vote on the matter. So for all of you guys that hate Manchin and Sinema, what they're asking for is not a pie-in-the-sky request. It is not a violent, aggressive means against the Democratic Party. All they're asking for is more time for the financial people in the government to create a budget proposal as to how much this will actually cost and whether it can be physically done. Nancy Pelosi would not like that. She would like people to just swipe right, vote yes, without knowing anything about this bill and how it will affect the economy of the United States. The CBO, that's the Congressional Budget Office, CBO's full assessment isn't expected to be released until next week at the earliest. All right, so I want you guys to understand that, and I know a lot of these other YouTube channels will feed you BS day and night. I mean, they even have news about them, particular channels now lying to people at a high level. And I know a lot of people are getting sick of it. That look at my channel. This has 35,000 viewers or subscribers rather, because people are so sick of the lies on YouTube and they just want to know, can this pass, when it passes, what's going to happen, how it will affect me. All right, so here's the bottom line. When it comes down to this bill does nothing for the disabled or the retired, maybe in the sense of clean water, maybe in the sense of infrastructure for transportation, but the disabled and retired would not realistically need that if they had enough money per month to be able to get some sort of vehicle, to be able to travel. We do not, and this is a Democrat thing, it's not a Republican thing, we do not think or expect that all disabled people are going to live in the city. And unfortunately, the way Democrats tend to think about this stuff is that a lot of people live in the city that are low income, that are disabled and retired. And that's not totally accurate. A lot of people live in the city because a lot of people live in the city, but a lot of disabled and retired people end up getting out of the city, out of the suburbs, into more of the country landscape and area because they get sick and tired of having to interact with people. It's one of these things where I think things are evolving in a negative way. I haven't been super happy with essentially what's going on here. I would really like to see some strong Democrats and strong Republicans actually stand up and support the disabled and the retired. I'm not seeing it. Look, guys, how many of you have seen an update on the news about the SSI Restoration Act? There's zero. How many of you have seen an update on the Social Security 2100 Act? There's zero. That means the senators and the House reps aren't talking about it. That means, and I can tell you, it's not. They're not moving through the committees. I pull them down from the internet all the time to check specifically what committees they're in right now. And I know this printout doesn't have it, but they're stuck in the same committee they were in June. This entire thing becomes essentially void because you can't use the wording anymore in a single month. So anyways, Trump did not do anything good for the disabled because of Commissioner Saul. Now, Trump wasn't one of those guys that was really interacting with the disabled. Okay. Trump had a design, an idea to go ahead and fund Social Security benefits from the general taxation fund to get rid of payroll. I mean, maybe he could have pulled it off with investments and stuff like that. I have no idea. It's beyond my math knowledge, but it seems ridiculous. It doesn't seem realistic. Maybe he was going to save a bunch of money by cutting off money to other countries. The next video we're going to be doing after this one's done, and this one's going to be done within the next minute or two, is essentially why $300 billion was spent on foreign aid when it could have been spent with the American people. Just think about that. $300 billion. If you guys want to know more about why Commissioner Saul did not make it very good for the disabled, I'll make videos on that. I'll do it for you guys. No problem at all. But I will say this, and there's another thing that we're going to be covering tonight as well. Things are not going well for Biden either. As you know, a lot of you guys you require having cheap Medicare. And I see a lot of you guys always complaining, oh, whatever increase they give us, they just take it away with Medicare. You're right. 14.5% increase for the B part. You're right. Look, for all the Let's Go Brandon people, how do we convince a Republican government to support the disabled and the retired? For all of the Build Back America people, how do we convince all the Democrats to support the disabled and retired? That's what we're facing here. The force, the punch through this thing, is to essentially show how the disabled have the capacity to vote in and out politicians with their 16 million votes. My point to you is this. If you guys want to know what's happening with the nonprofit, we are essentially doing this. The template for the nonprofit, the template website, votetoprotectdisabled.org, that's been uploaded. We'll start editing it over the next 2 weeks. The email is set up. We're finalizing the logo details. And then once all that stuff's done, we file for our nonprofit status and the bank account and the local corporation nonprofit status with the state of Florida, or wherever you guys want it to be based. It's up to you. I've been paying for it, so I just assume I'm going to pay for it and be in Florida because I'm in Florida. But anyways, guys, I will catch you a little bit later. I would really appreciate if you guys would leave 5-star reviews. They really help me be competitive because I don't advertise a bunch on Google with the law firm. We've reached a point with the law firm where we have lots and lots of the portfolio is very full, but we always like new claimants. We always want people to be coming to us to go for representation so we can work with them. As you guys know, we work very hard. I do these videos literally in the middle of the night because I'm either writing briefs, going to hearings, or talking with claimants, or etc., working on like a house thing. I want to thank you all for watching tonight. Please also subscribe to Positively Cheyenne. I'll let her put her link up there. That's her YouTube channel. She's amazing. She's an amazing person. She's always positive. I'm always positively negative. Just kidding, maybe a little bit. The other thing, if you guys could subscribe to the following. It's called Vacation Medication on YouTube. I don't have the link, but if you look it up, Vacation Medication YouTube, if you guys could subscribe there as well, I would appreciate it. That's where we're going to be posting all the future YouTube drone footage videos we have of beautiful places that are going to be very relaxing. We're going to make a bunch of relaxing videos and videos with a hypnotherapist or whatever they're called, hypnotherapy person who's certified with a doctorate in it, to go ahead and do talks over them to make videos that will help you guys and be relaxing. So I will catch you guys a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful night, and catch me at the next video. We'll be going live in 10 minutes. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.